let's understand about for loop here. So what are the different types of for loop we have, and what exactly for loop is helpful is what we are going to discuss in this particular section. So if you look at the advantage of for loop is to iterate off to the several parts of your program. That means, let's say you're trying to print 1 to 10 numbers, you want to iterate one after another. For loop is very useful. And here one more advantage is you can make your iterations either fixed or unfixed. When I say fixed or unfixed, if you look at the simple for loop, which is this guy here, using this guy, you can make the for loop both fixed and unfixed. When I say fixed, it is like a finite loop. Unfixed means infinite loop. You can create either of them. Java comes with three types of for loop here. One is the simple for loop, which is more like a C style for loop. And there's a label for loop, and there is for each or enhance for loop. So we will look at each one of them in detail. Now, let's look at this with an example. So this is the first for loop, which is the simple for loop we have discussed. In this case, if you look at, this is how the for loop is, where you have, this is called your initialization part. This is called your condition checking part. This is your increment or decrement. So here, if you look at the same kind of format, it is followed across all of these, right? So let's understand that from beginning. So this is your main program. So once your main program starts in, now what happens? So first of all, this is the label 0, label 1. In label 0, there is a for loop running from a equal to 1. So first a equal to will be 1. And whenever a is 1, this b runs for 3 times. So that's why a becomes 1. And you see here, b starts from 1 to 3. You can see that here. For every value of a, the b also runs up to 3 times. And each time you see b starts from 1 and b iterates up to 3 times. That means b starts with 1 less than or equal to 3. Now 2, it gets incremented to 2. Again, 2 less than or equal to 3. Again, it will increment. 3 less than or equal to 3. That is also true. Then finally, when 4 comes, it will stop. So every time it will run up to 1 to 3. Now here in this case, what we are doing is inside this for loop, we are putting a condition saying whenever a is 2 and b is 2, you just break the label 1. So label 1 is what? The inside for loop or nested for loop. This is called as a nested for loop. Nested for loop is nothing but a for loop embedded inside another for loop. So here this for loop is inside this for loop. That's why it is called nested or inner or embedded for loop. So this embedded for loop, when a equal to 2 and b equal to 2, you can see that in all these cases, whether it is 3 or 1, this is for b value, by the way, and this is for your a value. B value runs up to 1 to 3, B value runs up to 1 to 3. Both in the case of A is 1 and B is 3. Whereas when A is 2 and B is 1, B worked, but as soon as A equal to 2 and B equal to 2, so you see 2 and 3 is not printing, because we are saying when A is equal to 2 and B is equal to 2, that place you just break this label 2. So label 1. That's the reason B after it is printing 1, 2 and 3 didn't happen. So this is how you can use break, which is like a loop control statements, where they can actually take you to the next for loop by just breaking the existing one. So you can do that. And this break and all you have to use inside loops only, not outside. So that's why you see the difference, that it prints 2 and b value 1, 2 and 3 skipped, because that is the place where a equal to 2 and b equal to 2 matches, and it just breaks this loop. In this case, this is the loop gets break. Okay. Now let's understand, this is a simple while loop example. If you see here what we are doing. So this is our static void main. The program starts here and you are reading a variable, and your variable is integer, and you have set a scanners on system.in. System.in is nothing but your input stream. On that system input stream, the default one is your keyboard. You are reading it and you are saying, I want to read it as an integer, after saying enter the number of values. And I, since we have declared as integer, it can take an integer value. So here what is happening? So first of all, let's say I user have given 5 in this case. Now what will happen? N is user is given as 5, or here we have configured it as 5 hard coded. Ideally we should have put this as an n value, and we should have taken this as an input from user as well. But let's consider for this program it is 5. Then I start from 1 less than or equal to 5. It's correct. So it prints 1. You can see it is printing 1 here. Then I increments to 2. Now 2 is also checked whether 2 is less than or equal to 5. Yes. Now 2 gets printed. You can see 2 gets printed. Then 2 gets incremented to 3. 3 checks whether it is less than or equal to 5, which is true. Then 3 gets printed. Similarly, 4, 5. And when 5 increments to 6, it will check 6 less than or equal to 5. No, in both cases, it is not correct. So that's where it breaks. So always remember, when the while loop breaks, here in this case, the value of I will be always more than the value you have put up here. Whenever you say less than or equal to, the value will be more than that. That means it actually has to reach a point where it breaks the loop. That's why this condition we call sometimes as terminating condition. Okay, this is how the while loop works. Now, if we see the one kind of while loop which we have seen earlier, in this case, one condition is there that this while loop must always be true. When I say always be true, that means, even when it enters into the loop, that means when it starts its journey into the loop, as well as when it is continuing its journey in the loop, it has to be true always. It is not like there will not be any discount that first time, even if it is not true, it's okay. That kind of discounts cannot happen. Why I'm stressing more that on is, there are some loops where they have the discount. And in that category, this is the guy who comes. Here in this case, to put it simple, this do while have a discount that first time there is no condition checking. He can enter. After that, the condition checking starts. That means this loop minimum will execute one time, irrespective of whether the condition is false or true. Because there is no condition checking, if you see, it is just entering into the loop. Now, let's understand from beginning what is happening in this code. So if you see here, in this do while example, there's a main program which starts. And in this program, you are reading the scanner, which is nothing but your input stream, which is keyboard. And you are reading an integer variable. That's why you have declared an integer variable called s. And you are reading integer variable using the scanner method next int, and it is stored in s. So first time we will print s. What is s here? We have said like we will go up to 5, and s has to be given as 1. Now that 1 gets printed here, and 1 actually gets incremented to 2 less than or equal to 5. So the condition is true. So it prints 2, it prints 3, 4, 5, and when keep on, it increments the value like 2, 3, 4, 5. And when it reaches the value of 6 less than or equal to 5, the loop, you have to read it like this: while s is less than or equal to 5. But at the point of 6, when 5 gets incremented to 6, that's not true. So that's the point it makes a break call and comes out. But if you look at, as soon as user have given a value, which is what here in this case, we are just asking what is the first number, please give it, which in this case we will give as 1. You can give it as like 2, 3, doesn't matter, anything less than or equal to 5, okay. But even if you give something greater also, if you look at this loop will still run one time minimum, because the condition checking happening at the end. That's why I said in the earlier case, the simple while loop, there's no discount. Every time the loop condition has to be true. But here, first time the discount is that. That means there's no condition checking. You can do whatever. Even you give 10 here, right? First time it will print the 10, because the condition checking happening after printing the value of s.